Welcome to the British History Podcast wrap-up show. Once again, I'm Benjo.
And I'm Brandon. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 9.
As you can see, last episode we said we were going to be in a different location, and we marked our words. So.
Yeah, we are outside here. Benjo and I, since our last one, we went to Hilton Head. We had all the plans in the world to do one from Hilton Head.
We're not still in Hilton Head?
But we came back to agreement, but because we told y'all we were going to do one from a different, unique location, here we are, the brand new Lander Golf practice driving range. It hasn't even been opened yet.
And I don't know, I was just thinking this. I was dozing off and I was thinking this. It's kind of funny. Our podcast is a podcast of a podcast.
Yeah, we do have. If you can name another podcast about a podcast, comment below. Let us know.
Howard Stern.
Well, but Howard Stern wrap-up show. Howard Stern show is not a podcast, really. It's broadcast on Sirius. But yeah, we're a podcast about a podcast. British History Podcast wrap-up show. You doing all right?
Yeah, how about you?
Good, doing well. You look like you got some sun.
Yes, I got some sun. I walked 9 holes today.
You did? Nice. I was in the office all day long today. But Benjo, they're not here to hear us small talk, you know.
Yeah.
They're here to hear us.
They're here to hear us shorten what Jamie.
Hot takes.
Yes, hot takes.
Hot takes on the BHP episodes, episode by episode. Season 1, Episode 9. You want to read the name of it? Oh, before we start, this one's special because we're doing it outside in a special location.
I wrote the notes.
And
said they're kind of sloppy, but there's actually one page that's amazing. The handwriting is amazing, not gonna lie.
So on the drive back from Hilton Head, Benjo took notes, and I made him stop every 15 seconds and take notes. Yeah. It took forever.
So the name of this episode is Suetonius, part-time mountain climber and full-time jerk.
Right. Suetonius. Benjo, I mean, you listen. So is this the first one you've listened to and taken notes of? I mean, is the first one you've listened to while we've been doing this?
Well, yeah, while we've been doing this, but sometimes I'll be in the car on a road trip and I'll just be locked up, and trying to go to sleep or something. Right. Meanwhile, I'm hearing Jamie's voice in the background. So,
so Season 1, Episode 9. I mean, I feel like you could do this all by yourself. You don't even need me today.
This?
Yeah. But
why? Because I put the notes?
Yeah. But
I feel like you're going to be a little confused because I don't know if you can read all my handwriting.
I think I got it. Okay. It's better than I thought it was. But this one covers the years 54 to 66. Okay. You know, right now I actually have, so fast forward to today, you know, it's like episode 448 or something. Mm-hmm. I haven't listened to it yet because I go back, I'll listen to the previous one to make sure I refresh my memory. And then by the time we finish this, I will have listened to every episode 3 times. Mm-hmm. But anyway, where we are now, you're pretty much in the same year every time. But this one is covering about a 12-year period. And Jamie is telling us about the characters we're going to hear. Gaius Suetonius. We're just going to call him Suetonius. GSP, GPS, GST. GPS. There's lots of different ways you can say it, but he was the Roman governor of Britannia. A guy who had who in his previous life as a Roman general had crossed the North African mountains. And I mean, he had traveled extensively. Yeah. And in the ancient world, that was a big deal. I mean, it's not like you could get in a car or a plane or a train and go somewhere. So in the year 54, Didius, who was the previous governor of what was really just South Britannia, he was facing the Brigantes in the north, and he had his local his local representative was the Queen Cardamandua.
Yeah.
You remember Queen Cardamandua?
Yes, I remember hearing that name a lot.
And so there was essentially a civil war amongst the Brigantes between Queen and King.
Mm-hmm.
You had Queen Cardamandua and her husband, King Venutius. I'd been calling him Venusius, but I made a point to call him Venutius. And do you remember who King Venutius had kind of taken up the banner of? Caractacus.
Caractacus, that's
you remember. So after Caractacus had died, he went to Rome, and then we assume he died. We don't. We lost him in the record.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he kind of took up the banner or the mantle of Caractacus, and so Venutius was hoping to bring other rebels to his cause, right? And so his wife, the queen, Cardamandua, and I'm sure they, we're oversimplifying it. I'm sure they didn't speak for all of the non-colonized Romans at this time, but she was seeking help from Rome. And at the time, Didius, the governor of what was South Britannia, he really still wanted that containment only unless absolutely necessary policy. You remember that? So that meant like don't expand beyond the south and the southeast.
Yes, I do remember that. Don't be too risky because he doesn't want to. He's not really a risk for reward person. He just wants to stay. He didn't want to improve at all. He just wanted to stay. I remember talking about this. He didn't want to improve at all. He didn't want to get worse though. He just wanted to stay the exact same.
Right. You're exactly right, Benjo. And so the Britons, the native Britons, were forced to hide their rage because of the fear of the Romans.
Yeah.
So they wanted to rebel, but they were scared to death because they saw an organized army like they'd never seen before come in. So during this whole civil war, the queen took on Velicotus as a lover. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And so she started treating him as like the new king, but he was lower in class, and she was just rubbing it in his face, like Velicotus is my new lover. He's the new king. Well,
was he handsome or something?
I don't know. Probably. I guess. But she was always relying on the Romans. So Nero, you remember Nero? We've talked about Nero.
Yes, I do remember Nero.
We saw the Nero, or at least where the Nero sculptures were. We learned about Nero when we were in Italy and Rome. But he recalled Didius to Rome and replaced Didius with Varanus during the British Civil War. And so the Roman Varanius, I think is how you pronounce it. But so the Roman strategy shifted a little bit at this point from just seeking containment to seeking to conquer beyond just the south.
Yeah.
And when you go beyond the south, he was seeking to conquer what area? The Prince of, it was his birthday when we did this.
Prince of Wales.
Right. So he was seeking to conquer what is present day Wales. At the time, 2,000 years ago, they didn't call it Wales.
And when we wrote notes for this, Prince Harry it was his birthday.
Yeah, Benjo likes to go through birthdays every day.
Yeah, I give him birthdays every day, and he guesses the age, and I just happen to remember that.
So Varanius, he must have been successful. We know. I think Jamie alludes to the fact that in the archaeological evidence shows that he must have been successful, but then he died soon thereafter.
Oh gosh.
And so that's when Nero appointed Suetonius. Okay, so Suetonius, again, he'd been in North Africa, and now Nero makes him the Roman governor of Britannia.
Yeah.
And so Suetonius continues into Wales, and what I think was a little surprising that I found was that surprisingly some Britons supported Rome. Do you remember why? What why some of the Britons supported Rome?
Because 25 years of military service.
Yeah, so if they gave Rome 25 years of military service, they would become Roman citizens. And like we take citizenship for granted these days, but back then, them being granted all the rights and benefits that came with being a Roman citizen was a big deal, right? So um, they would have protection, they would have rights. I'm sure tax benefits.
Yeah.
Protection was the big thing, but so anyway, at this point, uh, we're at about what year here, Benjo?
56, 60. I think that's
somewhere around 60.
Yeah, I think that was the
62 ish.
No.
Well, we're covering the years 54 to 66, but we're talking about. I think we're probably talking about the year 62
okay.
because it's been 20 years since Rome started their colonization of Britain, and so again in the north and the west and probably like the east too, I'd imagine they continued to resist, but the Romans started urbanization. You remember that? What when you hear the word urbanization, what do you think?
I think of old.
Well, that in urban, what?
Because I think of urban, I think of like the Urban Dictionary. Is that nothing?
The so urban. There's but the urban means cities. So they went from being.
Okay, so is it like? Oh, I think I learned about this in.
Urban Dictionary is like slang, though.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just remembered urban. So anyway, isn't when you say urbanization, there's city states.
Well, yeah, but
there's empires. Is that what we're talking about?
Kind of.
I don't know. I remember learning about empires and city states in social studies.
So. You learned about all like ancient Mesopotamia and all that stuff, right? You're going to be able to impress your teachers once school starts back with your knowledge of British history. You're going to have to tell them about your podcast.
Yeah.
But
tell your friends too.
Tell your friends. This should be like a middle school. This should be played in middle schools. But urbanization is where Romans were encouraging people to move to the cities, and you remember the Britons were naturally more rural type, agricultural. They didn't like cities. They didn't know cities. But the Romans, anytime they came and like colonized, they brought the entire Roman way of life. I mean, Rome was this urban center. It was the urban center of the world at the time. And so they would, whether they would go to the east or whether they were in Gaul or whether they were in the what's presently Spain, Iberia Peninsula, or Britain, they would bring military organization, roads, infrastructure, and cities, right? And so, do you remember the two large capitals of Roman Britain at that time? We got Camulodunum, which is modern day Colchester. Okay. And then, you want to read your writing? Verulanum, which is modern day St. Albans. Those were the most organized. I'm reading it.
I couldn't even read my own writing.
But the Romans would lure the Britons to their urban areas, and one thing, do you remember one neat feature that didn't come back around after the fall of Rome? And the fall of the Roman colonization in Britain about the early 400s, about by 410. This feature did not come back to England or Britain until the mid 1800s.
Do I know what it is?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But you wrote it.
Hippocaust,
which was an ancient central heating through what?
Floor.
Through the floor. That sounds pretty cool.
I don't think it does.
No? And they also had public baths. So
No, I'm not going to no public.
No, you wouldn't go to one. But if you lived 2,000 years ago, I bet you would. You're
Oh, okay.
spoiled now.
In 200 years, I thought you were, at first I was like 200 years ago. I was like, no.
You probably would 200 years ago too, I bet. But
if I'm living in Russia or something.
Yeah, maybe. I guess. I don't know what Russia has to do with anything.
I'm just saying because they're like a communist country or something.
Yeah, maybe so. But so one thing we're talking about also is like the Romans were really trying to lure the British elite because that's who they could directly control, and then the Britons, the elite of the Britons would then control their underlings. So even when the Britain elite moved into these urban areas, they would still return at times to the countryside, to their old home place. So again, they were dangling Roman citizenship, and eventually a lot of Britons assimilated. They started wearing what? Like Romans did.
Wait, what was it? It was wait, I got it. Armor?
Togas.
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 I was way off.
But I'm sure they did like lure them with armor too. And they started speaking Roman Latin. You know what I thought was interesting, and Jamie didn't go into as much detail as I was hoping he would, but Jamie mentioned that even before the Romans came, a lot or some uh, Britons were speaking Latin. I'm not sure how it got there. I guess through just the trade that we take for granted that Um, but of course, some Britons had no interest in assimilating. They wanted to keep their old way of life. One of these groups, tribes, I mean, we don't think of them as tribes, but that's really what they were. Tribes were the Solares. And Suetonius fought the Solares in 60, the year 60.
Okay.
Innismon, current day Anglesey, or is it the other way around? Anglesey, current day Innismon? I'm not sure. I don't claim to be a British history, a British geographical.
Where's it say that?
Right there.
Innismon.
I mean, the names are right. I'm just not sure which is modern day. I think Anglesey is modern.
No, I think Innismon is.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's Anglesey. I don't know.
But anyway, at that point, he was really fighting more of the old Britain's way of life. And that was the Druids, right? You remember the Druids?
Yeah, I remember the Druids.
The mystical priests?
I remember the Druids?
Do you remember the priests?
How can you not remember that?
But this battle really hurt the Britons' morale.
Yeah.
And at this point,
Suetonius,
sorry,
he really prepared to take the entire island.
Right. He tried to take. He was like, "Look, we're going to take this entire island." And so, I mean, he encountered these Briton women dressed in black with torches and druids doing druid things. Yeah, I like that.
I think you told me to write that.
Yeah, I think I did. And I think we talked about this scared
the legions.
Scared the legions, even though they're brave and organized and structured and disciplined. It scared them.
So then, the Britons attacked Rome. The Britons attacked Rome.
Yeah, the Romans, the Roman legions. Yeah, but Suetonius, he basically told all his Roman soldiers, called them cowards, said, "You better get after it."
Yeah.
We learned the word cowardice.
Boss doing boss things.
Boss doing boss things. So the legions, again, it's one of the themes. The legions quickly won, beat them. The Romans got word of the Iceni. At that point, they got a little distracted because they got word of the Iceni rebellion in the east. So Suetonius had to abandon conquering Wales because of dun dun dun.
Boudica is coming up.
Boudica.
And before we finish, I did Remember, I've been saying we need to put some pub trivia in here, so
Yeah.
I came up with some pub trivia.
All right.
First question is, what famous person used Suetonius' description of North African mountains?
All right. So the way Jamie would do it, he'd ask the questions, and then he'd come back and give the answers.
Okay. Don't cheat.
How many questions you got?
Just two.
Two? Okay.
And then this one I just pulled straight, okay. Who did Nero recall to Rome?
Okay.
So
we'll go to the first question.
I guess you can put your answers in the comments.
Right.
And just try, I guess, don't cheat.
Don't cheat. So number one, the answer
is Pliny the Elder.
Pliny the Elder. I'm going to admit I don't know enough about Pliny the Elder, but I know he was a famous person. And he used Suetonius's geographical descriptions of North Africa. We'll learn a little bit about Pliny the Elder.
And then Nero recalled Didius to Rome.
Didius. You just like saying Didius, don't you? Well, anyway, you want to wrap this up, Benjo?
Yeah, we are, as you know, the British History Podcast wrap-up show. Hope you enjoyed this. Please share this to other people. And
we'll see you
I'm
season
Benjo.
one.
He's Brandon. Well, maybe we'll have a special guest next episode.
I don't know. A special guest soon enough.
I'm not saying next episode. I'm just
saying.
Will
wants money to be a special guest. We're not paying him.
Well, I told him
Don't pay him. Anyway, till season 1, episode 10. We'll see you later. Don't believe